still making loans? Yes, we are, right? And then of course, a lot of questions about the FDIC and whatnot. But yes, we are making loans. We have plenty of capital, and we specialize in commercial real estate loans and home loans. So I am looking forward for your questions.
Hello. Hey everybody, my name's Wei Ming and I'm with Asset Preservation Inc. and we are a 1031 exchange QI. We only do 1031 exchanges, before anybody asks. And we help facilitate exchanges anywhere in the United States.
Okay, let's give our speaker applause. It's okay? Thank you. So now you guys see the bulletin point here. We just come up with some of the usual stuff that we need to concern when we selling a commercial property, especially for like a apartment building in a rent-controlled city like San Francisco. It gets very complicated. Once you know more about these key issues, you will be able to get your client comfortable and start selling them like apartment buildings in the city. So like a lot of people, residential agent, they look at the investment marketing package. They have a different name for it. They usually call it offering memorandum. Right, when I first tried it from, I didn't know what that is. What's it different, right? But what it means, they try to make it sound more professional, like an investment offering. It comes with the financial analysis. So there's the same thing other banks will look at too, the statement that they look at how to underwrite in a professional way. They look at cap rate, price per square foot, gross rent multiple, and price per unit. Those are the four measures. The simple idea is like a building's total income minus total expense in an annual basis. What is the net income? The tricky part is that you have to factor the vacancy factor in. It depends on the vacancy factor also change over time. Like for now, the office building, the vacancy factor could be 30%. In a normal time, it could be 5 or 8%. That's a tricky part. And then you will also take your other stuff in the financial statement. You will put in a management fee. Usually you put in like 5% in that for apartment building, but for triple net property, retail property, you probably don't need that because you don't need a manager to manage those net lease like Burger King, McDonald's. So those stuff also they don't need a management fee. So if you look at a couple of samples, if you look at more OMs, you can try to ask the listing agents for the OMs on different kind of investment property. After you look at more of them, you should be able to get comfortable with it. If you have questions, you can always feel free to ask us. So those are the basics for the financial analysis part. It looks fancy, but they're actually very simple. If you get used to it, it's very simple. And then do you guys have any comment on the financial statement? How do you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, most properties that are listed on LoopNet or whatever, there would be an OM ready, and a lot of income statement, income information is on the OM, offer memorandum, right? So it's really helpful for us as a lender to look at those things. Another thing I would consider telling your buyer, right? Get together like a financial statement that talks about how much money you have, how much cash, how much debt you owe. So it'll be a lot easier for the lender to look at the deal and say how much we can lend up to. Those two things are key. And your tax returns, we can get those later. Right? So your OM, your offer memorandum is very important, for me at least.
See, we're going into. So besides financial analysis, when you buy a property, commercial property, there's due diligence that banks or lenders will require. So residential, we know that we always have to order an appraisal. But commercial, besides an appraisal, we also have to do a environmental due diligence process. So basically, we need to make sure it's not contaminated underneath the building. So actually, this is a life scenario. You know, I have a client where he bought a building with cash 10 years ago because he didn't go through a lender. He did not do the due diligence for environmental. So now he's trying to sell the building. The new buyer is going through a bank. They did an environmental report. It's contaminated. So he's stuck with it. My client's stuck with the building because it's contaminated. It's going to take, actually, I think, close to $100,000 to clean it up. So, you know, usually, I know a lot of buyers, they're like, if I have cash, I'm going to do the fastest, the cheapest way. But I strongly recommend everybody, and maybe Ning can chime in on this, but you should do all the due diligence. You know, it costs you a few $1,000s, but it's going to save you headaches later.
Yeah. I want to comment. Hello, I want to comment on this. Yes, sometimes having a lender, when the buyer bring in a lender, the lender is really careful in doing the due diligence. Actually, keep the agent very safe. So we are agent have responsibility because we need to take care of our buyer, right? But once you bring in a professional lender like a bank, they look at all the details. They are more careful than we are. So usually, once we pass the loan, usually due diligence is pretty good. Yeah, unless you have a special problem that you need to take care of, then you refer to the lawyer for your buyer, right? You never assume that there's no problem because that will backfire, get you a lawsuit later on. Yeah, that's a really good point. The lender is very important for commercial deals. We will get to your question. Exchange.
Do we have anyone from the environmental company here in Dallas?
Probably not today.
No. So, I mean, to add on to that, if the seller has a past environmental report from a couple years ago, the lender can look at it and we think it's acceptable. No further action needed. Sometimes we won't have to order anymore, and that's something I want to throw out there. We don't always look for things to decline your loans, although it sounds like we do. We want to make loans, we want to make money, right? We want to make commission. So we're going to try to find ways to mitigate those things. And the environmental report is one of them, right? So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we go to the next bullet point, the purchase agreement. Do you guys know what purchase agreement to use for commercial investment properties?
The commercial. LOI.
Yeah, there you go. Usually for sophisticated commercial property, you can start with LOI because usually buyer will need to engage a lawyer like Rex to get a official tailored purchase agreement for some sophisticated buyers. But for some smaller investment properties, you don't need it. Usually they just allow you to use a regular SFAR form or the CAL form. The CAL form is really good. They have a different type. They have a CAR, Commercial Property Purchase Agreement, and they have another tailored for apartment building called it Residential Income Property Purchase Agreement. That one is for multifamily and mixed-use building. So there's no limit on you what contract you can use. So don't be afraid. Yes. And some people also use the AIR form. The people more from the South Cal background, and they use more often there. Yes. So the purchase form should be simple, and pretty sure the lender don't care which form
We don't.
they use. Okay. For the rent control market like San Francisco, it's very important to know the rent control upside. So you should advise your client to go to the rent board website. The rent board website has a lot of great information. They tell you about what is rent control in San Francisco. you can raise rent at 60% of CPI. For example, if the inflation is 10%, you can raise 6%, but usually inflation is 3%. Guess how much you can increase? So that's rent control in San Francisco. As a result, 10 years after rent control, in certain units, the rent is significantly lower than the market. So the price would be hugely discounted because of that. If, for example, if a 6-unit apartment building in Pacific High now selling for like $2.5 million because there's a lot of low rent tenants, if the entire building is vacant, how much would that worth? It probably worth $4 million or more. So it's discounted because the rent control. So don't be afraid. So you can advise your client, they buy a building with a luxury built-in. Anytime a tenant move out, they win the lottery. It just time, just make sure you live longer than the tenants. Yes. So don't be afraid of rent control. Rent control provides opportunities, and that's how a lot of clients become wealthy and they stay in the market. They keep buying more. Like in our sector, the apartment sector, our clients are most of them they're repeat clients. Once they started invested into the multifamily sector, they keep buying more. That's what they do the rest of their life. They ended up with a lot of building. The rentage is like, if you can retain this client, you only need a few of these clients to make a living because they keep buying and selling every day. That's different from residential world that they don't buy home very often. But for investor, for bigger investor, when you have a portfolio, they have to buy or sell almost every year. If you treat them well, they'll stay with you. Then it's a different kind of career. We appreciate that what we had in the commercial sector. Yeah. And any comments? Okay. So the seismic retrofit has been a big topic in San Francisco. For the brick and masonry building, that was done 20 years ago, around 1999 and 2000. You see all the Chinatown building or the downtown brick building, those are required seismic retrofit over 20 years ago, all done. The new rate was the wood frame apartment building that started around like 2015-ish, but now it's almost all complete. But be careful, some of those buildings, they were not on the city's list. The city missed some of the buildings, but they supposed to be on it, but not on it. It's very common now. Then you have to advise your buyer, make sure they get an engineer to look at it, to screen it, but otherwise you'll be in trouble again after you sell it and you didn't avoid. So your buyer to check the seismic retrofit issue. So yeah, a lot of the buildings is supposed to be on the list, but they were not on the list. So those are the items that you guys need to look at. Yeah, talking to an architect or engineer, they will tell you the answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Just for everybody as well, what's a typical cost for something like a seismic retrofit? Just on average, what have you seen?
So, Eric, you wanna say something?
Well, I guess it would depend on the scope of work. I financed a seismic retrofit for a client. He owned 12 units in Potrero Hill. But
I was going to answer that it depends on the project and what's required. I think what you need to do is sit down with somebody who's an expert in seismic retrofit and with a general contractor who needs to do the work and go through and put together a scope of work so that you know how much that particular project would cost, and then from there you go to a lender. But it's going to vary project by project.
What's the magnitude? 1,000, 10,000, 100,000?
It could be in the thousands. I mean, the loan I did was $300,000 for seismic retrofit, but they were also adding 3 units to their 12-unit apartment, so there was additional costs. So I don't know if that really answered the question, except that the costs vary.
The cost keeps going up, right? It never goes down, right?
Yeah, especially
Just
now.
like
I mean,
everything
there's a shortage of labor and material costs have gone up. So.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Hello, yeah, this is Secure the fellow audience. Yeah, we very appreciate you for engaging with us. Remember, this is not a lecture, we're just talking, discussing about and sharing what we know. Thank you. So yeah, the seismic retrofit usually can range from $100,000 to $500,000 for apartment building up to like 20 units. If you're bigger than that, it may cost more. Okay, so yeah, so seismic, remember, is an important issue for you to check when you advise a buyer to buy apartment building. And COPA compliance, how many, well, we do have a lot of commercial agent here. So, who does commercial agent? Please raise your hand. We need all your wisdoms. Come on, Kevin. Go, you guys sell some too, with everyone. Yes. Okay, yeah, we're gonna need all your inputs and share. Charlie, you are selling one too. Okay. So yes, COPA compliance. So the city of San Francisco has a requirement that if you're selling a building with 3 residential unit or more, it got to be residential unit. Okay, 3 residential unit or more. You need to notify a dozen of those nonprofits. They have the first right to make the offer. They have 5 days to respond to your notice. If they're interested, they tell you, oh, I'm interested, please send me all the information. Then they have 25 days to write the first offers. You cannot market it during that time. They have exclusive right to write an offer. And that 25 day actually starts after you submit all the tenant information to them. So not from the day that they respond to you. So be careful. So when they are interested, you have to send all the information that they requested to them, and then the 25 days starts to count. If you wait 25 days and after maybe we clear your requirement and you didn't send them the tenant, they'll tell you, oh, we didn't start yet. You didn't send me the information. They need all the tenant information, contact information. Yes, so that's very tricky part. Yeah, it happens. So after they submit an offer within the first 30 days, usually you will decline them because they have very long closing and all kind of ridiculous terms. Price may not be very well as well. Usually you reject it, then you go to the market, you clear. Yeah, and after you sell it, send them a notice that you sold it. But that's the requirement for city if you're selling 3 unit or more residential building. It can be a mixed-use building with 2 retail, but 3 residential. That was subject to the requirement as well. If you have a 3-unit triplex, they're always subject to it as well, so be mindful. The fire alarm upgrade is not a thing that's already ticking. The deadline's already up. So the building that already had the central alarm system, multi-unit building, the city required them to upgrade the alarm system. The every sleeping room needs a sounder. When the fire happened, they need to wake up the sleeping tenant, make sure to keep them safe. And that would cost typically about like $3,000 to $4,000 per unit. So that's another major cost. So a lot of people are doing it right now. Yeah, so if you know those apartment owner, then you can advise them, make sure they comply with the deadline.
Who is required to do it? Like two plus or 3 plus or 5 plus?
Normally it will be 5+ when you have an existing central alarm system. But sometimes even if you're 5+, it doesn't have an existing central alarm system, you don't need to upgrade. We only talk about upgrade. If you don't have one, there's no upgrade. So check whether they have a central alarm system. Yes. And yes, then let's go to Wayman sector. You want to give some guidance on 1031?
Sure. Oh, listen, want that again? Not got battery thing. Hello. Awesome. Yeah, that's homework after this lecture. Just turn it in after. Okay. 1031 exchanges. So just to kind of get a feel for the room, who here is a real estate professional? Real estate professional, investor. I just want to get a feel for the room. I swear there's no homework, right? I'm not trying to give you guys questions or nothing, but I just want to get a feel for the room, so kind of see what kind of information everybody might be looking for. And I think nowadays, one of the more common questions I get is, hey, Wei Ming, my client is potentially looking to do an exchange, and I'm hearing a lot of talk about extensions. What about extensions, right? We recently had a lot of storm here in California, a lot of flooding, and the IRS actually has issued natural disaster declarations. So there were actually extensions for 1031 exchanges. Now they're constantly updating that on the website, and what they do is they list the counties of affected taxpayers. So if you have businesses there or you live in one of those counties, you may have an extension to your 1031 exchange. Why does that affect you if you're not in the middle of your exchange? Well, and an example, one of the extension is to October 16. What does that mean for my client? If I sell today, well, let me backtrack a little bit. In any 1031 exchange, from the close of escrow, you have 45 days to identify and pick properties that you're thinking about buying, and a total of 180 days to close. Now, if you close today, let's say you close your property today, your day 45 is what? Sometime end of June? Towards end of June?
Yeah.
Well, that 45 days is now October 16.
Wow.
So that gives you a lot more time, less pressure on you trying to find something within 45 days. Now you have a couple months. Your day 180, if you close today, it's still going to be beyond October 16th. What is it going to be? 6 months from now. That's sometime in November. Yeah. So your day 180 is sometime in November, but your original day 45, your 45 day is now pushed all the way to October 16th. So a lot more time. Yes, sir.
So the 45 days is pushed out to October 16th, and then after that, you still have 135 days to close, or
The remainder of the 180. Yeah. Nice. I mean, I guess you can try and explain to the IRS why you try to do it that way, but I don't think they'll take it.
I just want, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no problem. So, just also kind of show of hands, who here has done exchanges or looking to do an exchange? Okay, that's good to know. So, just sort of a refresher for everybody, what most people know 1031 exchange as is what's called a delayed exchange or regular exchange. You sell first, then that 45 days to pick, 180 days total to close. That's what most people know. There's other types as well. There's a type called simultaneous exchange. You close on the sale and the purchase on the same day. Not really that much different, except you're not really using the rest of the time. That's the only difference. There's a reverse exchange where you can buy the property first, then have 180 days to sell your property. So less of a stress, but a little more complicated on the lending side. There's an improvement exchange. You sell your property, you buy the replacement, you have leftover money, use that to fix up and improve the property you're buying. Last but not least, reverse improvement. You buy the property first, start improving on it, and still within the 180 days, sell your property. So there are a lot of different ways you can utilize a 1031 exchange. And I think before I pass it back to everybody else is, let me clarify what an exchange can help you achieve and do. Oftentimes you hear people say, hey, the property, if it qualifies for an exchange, you can do this and that and this and that. To be more specific, any portion of a property that has been rented out, used for business like a home office, that portion of the property qualifies for an exchange as well. So when you have those clients who are living at home and renting to their kids, their family member and whatnot, and they want to move, or they even have a home office and now they want to move, they can utilize a 1031 exchange and a homeowner's exclusion at the same time. Yeah. Those- it can get complicated, yeah. Sure, yes, sir?
Oh, yes.
Loud voice, you don't even need the mic.
So, hopefully you can give away the secret sauce. I'm a lender, and I've seen some cases come across my desk that involves a reverse exchange before. It's always very tricky convincing the bank to finance those, because as you know, the property that's being purchased, that deed of trust, is usually held by the, I think the escrow agent or the attorney agent or something like that, or you guys. So, based on your experience, how do some of these banks do it? Maybe you could teach us.
Sure, I'm a
Private
So-
lender, right?
private lender, or I'm sure if somebody like Zuckerberg came up to me, and you're not gonna say no, though, right? So it really depends. What Eddie mentioned is talking about a reverse exchange. Again, in a reverse exchange, you buy the property first and then you sell. Now the way that works is, imagine you're on title to your old property, and if you were somehow able to get on title to the new one, once you sell your old property, you can't exchange into one you already own. So the way we structure that is, you technically pay for the new property, but we will hold on to that property under an LLC for you. So kind of we're on title temporarily doing this transaction. Once you sell your property, all we're doing is deeding it back to you. Now, let's assume that Eddie's the client, and Eddie's gonna go to Auto or ANSI for a loan. And he says, hey, I want a loan to buy this property, but Wei Ming's the one that's gonna be on title. Is that okay? They're probably gonna say, not really.
Why not?
There's your answer. He'll loan you any kind of loan, huh?
Auto can be our CCO.
So the question becomes, who's going to loan on something like that? Typically, I see the majority of the time for reverse exchanges, I see bridge loans or hard money loans or private loans. But other than that, I have also seen clients refi and pull cash out from other properties too. So, yeah. Mhm. You guys have any comments?
I do private money.
So private loans usually, just keep in mind, hard money loans are usually bridge loans. Most private lenders, 1 year, maybe 2 years, or even 6 months, 6 months to 2 years. And they usually require a larger down payment, 35%.
Google, do you need a mic?
Hey, so my name is Gogo with Bear Real Estate. I want to share like successful story with Wei Ming's team. Last year, one of my client actually owned a property in San Bruno. Remember that client? So he actually lived in the property as a primary resident within the last 5 years, 2 out of the 5 years. Maybe longer, but he also within the last 2 years or so he rented out as a rental, so he has a combination of the 1031 exchange and also pocket that 250 upon close of escrow of that departing property, and then later on he bought it within that 180 days in Southern California. So thank you, Wei Ming, for your team. Another thing that I would like to ask you as a question is, as we are in the midst of many banking failure, especially those medium-sized lender banks, a lot of question revolving when the 1031 exceed posted goes in your account, which bank is whole, and how do you secure it? That is my question. Thank you.
Sure. So basically, the funds in the 1031 exchange account, is it safe? I know that our president is the one in charge of, which bank it goes to. And I know there's more than two, but the two off the top of my head that we definitely use is Citi and Chase. So we do use the big banks, and if there's any financial harm to our clients because of, a collapse of our a company or anything like that, we are required to carry errors and omissions and also bonds to cover the amount that a client could potentially have in their accounts as well. Eddie, know my name now.
I was gonna add, there's a kind of account out there that banks can offer called CDARS. Basically, they take your $1 million or $2 million, break it up into different $250,000 pieces, and put it in different banks. That's something you guys can request with the bank anytime they'll offer it. Most regional banks will have it.
Yeah, so that's something the president of our company, that's one of his sole roles, is he handles all of banking information and whatnot for the clients. So to be honest, aside from knowing which banks we bank with and that we have bonds and everything that covers it, I don't even know if he has it split into the 250 accounts.
Thank you very much, Raymond. That's a really high level exchange and knowledge that we normally don't need. So just telling from our, I appreciate that's really, I mean, once you get into that, this is the guy that you can count on. For sometimes it can get complicated, but in our real life, we usually avoid doing a reverse exchange as an agent, because first, usually your client, usually they are not comfortable selling the property first, and then they want to find one that they like first, and then sell their own one. That problem happens. Once you find one that they like, you want to make an offer, your client is not going to make his best offer. He's not likely to win the competition in a good property that he likes, where other buyers are more ready, more willing to compete. Most of the time you end in wasting your time. The chance to have a client to buy one first and then sell his is very low from our experience. So we usually avoid that kind of situation. We just let them wait until they ready to sell their property first, and then we can work on it. So yeah, we can tell you maybe that's very few percentage people that do the reverse exchange, right? Well, but yeah.
For our company, it's usually 3 to 5% maybe. So not a high percentage.
Yes.
So when you do get a reverse 1031 exchange, I understand that a private lender comes in, you guys hold it in an LLC. How is it recorded? How does the private lender record the deed? And then I assume that they will get a bank loan after.
It depends on how it's structured.
We need a flow chart.
So
Is that too much? You don't have to answer it.
I'm just thinking like how I should answer it, because it gets into a lot of technical questions and it's good be sitting here.
Oh, okay, all right. Never mind then.
The short answer was what I was trying to explain is we're basically entitled to the replacement property, and we're holding for you in the LLC. Once you sell your property, we go, here you go, here's your property back. That's it. That's a simplified version of it.
So is there a timeline then after to sell?
Yes, so on the close of escrow on the new property, you have 180 days to close. But, I mean, if you can't sell your property in 180 days in California,
And you can't get taxed later, right?
well, yeah, but then you're stuck with a second property that you made.
How about the transfer tax? Would that be?
DST.
Do they have to pay transfer tax twice when they do reverse exchange?
No, so they're basically asking what happens in a failed reverse exchange. As you know, in a regular exchange, you sell your property, you fail your exchange, you gotta pay your taxes. In a reverse exchange, you bought that new property, and what if you fail to sell? Well, congratulations, you now own 2 properties, yay! But you failed to sell, there's no taxes, you haven't sold anything.
But you have 2 more.
I mean, like when you purchase your property under the LLC, you're holding it, you probably pay transfer tax once, right? Someone got to pay transfer tax. But then when you transfer from the LLC to your own name with that, another time you pay the transfer tax, not the capital gain tax. Can you?
Yeah, so when the property gets transferred to us initially, there's a transfer tax that the client pays. Now, when we transfer the property back to the client pays that again. So there's a second transfer tax.
Ouch.
No. Better make sure you like it.
Make sure you make sure you talk to Raymond when you do reverse exchange. He knows all the details. Okay. Now let's go to the banking sector. You guys want to go with different kind of bank loans?
So we're talking about financing. Financing a commercial loan. There's many ways of structuring it, depending on the property types, the purpose of the property. Is it an investment, or is it an owner occupied where you're gonna put a business in it? But just in general, that we have, a general commercial loan usually is 5, 7, 10 years.
So first of all, you're not gonna find a 30-year fix. It's very common to have a 3, 5, 7, 10-year fix. The reason being is most commercial leases are not 30 years, right? Unless it's maybe a Walgreens, 15 years, 20 years, CVS.
I know a bank that used to do 20 years, fixed 20 years amortization, but they don't exist
okay.
anymore.
Yeah.
So actually, your larger banks, the larger national banks, for the really good clients, they still have 20-year fix. JP Morgan Chase still has that product. So, but it has to be a particular client type. Not everybody will qualify, but national bank still has it. But
So there's a difference between 30-year amortization, 30-year maturity, but never really 30-year fixed. You don't want to fix at 8% anyways, right?
Thank you.
You get to 18% more.
So yeah, you can find usually like apartment buildings, easily you can find a 30-year term, but it's not gonna be fixed for 30 years. It's gonna be 5 years, 7 years. What drives the fixed rate usually for most lenders is they look at the lease, for commercial, they look at how long the lease is, and then they try to match the fixed rate to that. But honestly, in this market, a lot of my very sophisticated investors, they don't want to fix the rate. They want to float it. Because everybody thinks that, it's gonna drop in a year or two. So they rather pay a high rate right now and just not lock themselves in. So, yeah, I have a lot of clients that are on variable rates right now, 1-year fix. Yeah, so that's standard commercial loan. Usually what we need is historical when we underwrite the loan, historical cash flow. So we would need to look at tax returns to make sure the borrower, the buyer personally qualifies. And then for the property, depending on what type of property, what you're using it for apartment buildings, we'll look at the lease, the historical rental income. For owner occupied, let's say you own a supermarket, you want to buy the building for your supermarket. We would have to look at the business tax returns of your supermarket for the last 3 years to make sure it debt service meaning, usually most banks, the ratio is 1.25. So what that means is every dollar in debt payment each month, we want to see $1.25 in net income. Anything else?
So the lender, when the lender looks at the rent roll and the income statement, they can typically give you a loan amount, right? That income is validated by the appraisal, right? So the appraiser looks at the fair market value or rent of those units, and then we make an adjustment. Sometimes that loan amount can change. So your preliminary analysis, your rent roll, and your income statement is just kind of give you a ballpark of what the lender can lend up to. It's really at the end when we look at the appraisal, how we adjust the net operating income, the NOI on the appraisal, right? So don't get crazy when your lender says, hey, we can't make, 2 million, but how about 1.8, right? It happens. So the bank wants to make sure that your client, your buyer, would be able to pay the loan, pay all the expenses and some, right? So we want to make sure it's in their best interest too. Instead of making a loan that you cannot service at the end.
My name is Thomas. I have a very quick comment right now. I'm doing both commercial and residential real estate. The very common to my office right now that the mixed-use building, a lot of lenders do not lend from the mixed-use building. Typical for if you have a residential, commercial downstairs, like 3 units or 5 units up, but below like 7 units, a lot of lenders turn away from your, mixed-use building. I have your input on that.
Who's that? What bank?
What's the split resi commercial?
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so-
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
I haven't officially started, but I can talk about it because I worked there for 12 years before. I'm just going home. I'm starting Monday, but Chase is a big bank. They do lend on those properties. You just have to go to the right group. So.
The right group.
It's not like a community bank where one person does all types of loans. Chase has different departments for different types of loans. They have commercial term lending, that just, even within commercial term lending. Actually, I just met somebody that used to work there today, Simon. Even within commercial term lending, there's different groups, right? There's mixed use.
They will only do mixed use if it's 5 and above on the residential.
Yeah.
That's why I asked what
I was at Chase for a while, and they're a big apartment lender, and, a lot of buildings in San Francisco are considered mixed-use retail with residential on top. So how they classify is they look at percentage of income off of the retail. So if it's above 50%, called the commercial bucket. But they would only lend if there's 5 units and above, and that's due to, Chase doesn't like to give out appraisals. So I think that was part of the deal, is a home, falls in the home loan bucket, and they don't want to do that. So that's why they don't do that. But now I'm at Slack Capital, we're a commercial mortgage bank. There are plenty of lenders that'll do that. You just gotta find the right one.
So mixed use, as Simon says, there's many lenders that still does it. It's just in the big banks, sometimes it's hard to navigate because they have so, but I'll give you my number. I've been there, worked there for a long time, so I can direct you to the right department. But besides banks, there's other lenders, like regional banks, I know some of them, like East West is still doing them. And then there's also other programs that are non-banks that can look at them too. So, anything to add?
Yeah, we'll find somebody for you.
Yeah.
Willing
But
to
with
lend.
mixed use, I know if you go to, go to a home mortgage person, they can't do it. You have to find a commercial.
I can tell you this, I work for East West. If your client, your buyer, is willing to have some deposits with us, we'll make the loan. We want deposits, right? We still look at them.
But is there tenants in there right now? The
There
mixed use
are,
building?
I have a couple of kind of, one is three in San Francisco and the other one, they hold a whole three buildings. One in San Diego, essentially, they have retail, they have 5, 10, 7 units up there. Those different levels.
Yeah, I think one important point with financing commercial building is vacancy. If it's vacant,
No, only 1 unit.
okay, only vacant,
But
one
some
unit.
have the remaining kind of low range,
Okay.
5, 6 low range, but the retail is up there,
It depends, it's hard to say, it depends on the area,
Yeah.
You
depend
can look
on,
into debt service ratio and if you look at all that stuff.
so it's the debt coverage that, yeah. We can look at it, I mean, we can find ways to try to make it work. We can maybe do a payment reserve for 6 months or 12 months, and we're here to make business, so we'll find somebody.
Did they look at SBA loan? That would be the next sector they guys want to talk about.
So SBA loan, SBA stands for Small Business Administration. How many in the room are familiar with SBA? Good number.
You explain like 504,
Yeah. So SBA loans is mainly for owner users. So you have to own a business and occupy the building with your business to qualify. And
Or
occupancy
at least plan to.
within 12 months.
Yeah.
So occupancy, usually you have to occupy 51% of the square footage in order for you to qualify for an SBA loan. So in a mixed-use building, typical like in the Sunset, residential, commercial, those are tricky because usually it's 50-50, right? If you go to a lender that knows how to kind of work the system, they can count common areas. Yeah, common areas, hallways, so you need to find somebody that knows how to kind of work with that. But 51% occupancy, minimum requirement by the business. So SBA, there are 2 programs. There are a 504 and a 7A. Both programs allow you to buy a building with as little as 10% down payment. So why would somebody go apply for an SBA loan versus a traditional commercial loan? Well, one, maybe they don't qualify because they don't have historical cash flow. A traditional standard commercial loan requires 3 years of historical cash flow. If you're a new business, you're not gonna have that. So you would need to use forecasts, projections, right? SBA allows you to use projections. However, I gotta be careful when I say that because even though SBA allows that, it's up to the bank. So SBA is a program, but the funding comes from the bank. 7A comes from the bank. 504, 50% comes from the bank, 40% from an actual SBA, they call it Certified Development Company. But, SBA, they might allow for pure projection underwriting. You could be a new business, no historical. You give us a nice business plan, they would approve you or qualify you. But it's up to the bank if they want to follow that completely. And I have seen, just this week, where traditionally we can do that with 10% down, SBA is saying, I want more down payment because of the economy right now. I mean, the lender is asking for more. So, in current situations with SBA loans, even though it says 10% down only, be prepared. If you have a client that has weaker, doesn't have a lot of historical cash flow, a startup, probably I would say at least 25% down.
We got a question of entity have to be set up in a certain corporation, SC or individual. When you set up,
You mean the holding of the vesting of the property?
have to be individual or you can set up entity. What the amount for SBA loan?
The personal or LLC, no, it can be either. Yeah. It's up to their, it's up to how they want it. Usually for these type of, for how they want to hold title, I refer them back to their CPA, because everybody's different.
Okay. Test. I'd like to run a live deal before answering an auto. So I got a referral from a real estate agent friend of mine. They have a client that's looking to buy a commercial condo in the East Bay. Asking price is $700,000. They made an offer on $700,000. It's going to be 100% owner occupied. So definitely SBA is an option. They can put up to 50% down, right, or $350,000. Question number one, a lot of lenders don't have a minimum loan amount. So for auto, will East West Bank lend below $500,000?
Yeah, I mean, why not conventional, right? We can probably do a conventional loan. I don't know what the business is.
So that was the other option. Because of the high down payment, conventional is an option as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so you can do below 500,000. Second
Depends.
is, okay.
Doesn't want to.
Well,
Should I just say in the perfect world, yes.
Okay.
You can,
Right.
you can.
So theoretically, you guys can do 350. The second thing I asked
We're
my
gonna need
friend,
some
I said-
deposits.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about. Right? So I asked my friend, I said, so the buyer, I said, what do they do? She said, well, she does eyelashes and microblading. And I said, does she have a current location? She said, no, she's been kind of posting on Instagram, and she goes to wherever the clients are, right? So she doesn't have a current location. I said, so is she showing her income on her taxes, probably like a Schedule C? My guess is she's maybe showing like partial her income. So from either an SBA or a conventional or portfolio loan, like Nancy mentioned projections, right? So let's say that she's showing $50,000 in current revenue from her microblading business. When you do projections, right? I mean, can the projections be all of a sudden 100,000? So there's like 100%, right? 200% increase in revenue, right? How do you deal with a buyer like that?
So, projections, there's a specific format SBA looks for, okay? It has to be first 2 years, first year is month by month, second year can be annualized, but you also have to add in what they call assumptions. So you have to, if you want to report $100,000 in year 2 or year 1, how do you get to that number? It has to be very specific. I'm gonna have 20 clients a day times $100. It has to, everything has to match up to 100,000. You can't just throw out a number like that. You have to have good assumptions. So that's why for situations like that, you need to make sure you go to an SBA lender that knows what they're doing. Because if they don't, you're not gonna get the deal. So, I mean, there's a way to do it. You need to talk to your lender, the client, so they can better understand how to help you.
All right. So let's say it goes portfolio, as Otto mentioned. Would it be better portfolio as an owner-occupied basis or portfolio as an investment basis? At 50%?
Based on this scenario,
Yes.
I'll probably go SBA all the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Finish talking about the difference. I think we never really explained 7A and 504. So 7A, 504, down payment wise, same 10%, at least 10%. But why is there two programs? So 7A is actually fully funded by the bank, by the bank lender. SBA is more like an insurance. So what happens with an SBA loan? The reason bank like SBA loan is if it defaults, the SBA will guarantee part of the funds. So with a 7A is a 75% guarantee. $1 million, they guarantee $750,000. So usually SBA loan, you have to pay a higher fee. It's a guarantee fee, the bank doesn't collect it, it's the government. So regardless of which bank, East West Bank, Chase Bank, Golden Bank, it's the same. Guarantee fee is across the board the same. It's the government collecting it for that insurance, okay? So 7A, usually it's a 25-year term. You can use it to buy buildings, for working capital, for leasehold improvement, like let's say you're not buying a building, you're leasing and you need money to renovate. 7A, you can use 7A, SBA 7A program and borrow from that for tenant improvements. And then 504 is, and 7A is only up to $5 million, okay? The maximum each person plus the affiliates can get is 5 million. So let's say you have 10 different businesses, all 10 aggregate maximum is 5 million, okay? Not each business 5 million, okay? But for 504, there's not really a limitation, but 504 is mainly for real estate purchases and equipment. And with 504, it's actually you are working with two separate lenders. One is the actual bank lender that finance 50%, and then the other part is working with a certified development company, which is the SBA lender, 40%. So with 504, the SBA actually does lend some money. It's not just an insurance. They actually have a certified development company that lends 40%.
So the question naturally would be like, why the hell my client want 2 loans, right? With a 504, the bank would try to push for the 7A. I'm not supposed to say this, but they probably make more money from it, right? So, and there is a 7A guarantee fee. That fee is kind of like your PMI, right? It goes towards, in case your borrower walks away and never pays the bank. We have some type of insurance up to, I believe, 75% recoupment of the debt. So there are cases where the financials might not look too good, or projections might not be too promising, or is the type of business the bank don't want to make a 7A loan, so they want to go 504 route to share the risk with the CDC, right? So, yeah, the 504 larger, larger.
504 technically there's no limit. So the 504 is limited. The SBA portion is also limited to 5 million. But if you have a $20 million project, if you can find a bank that finance 15, and the SBA finance not 15, let's say 10 million. 10% is the borrower's injection, so it's 1 million. If you can find a bank that can finance the difference, you're not capped. Only the SBA portion is capped at 40% at $5 million. So usually 504 is for larger projects, larger real estate.
Can I comment a little bit? I see a lot of puzzle on the face. We're getting to like talking to lawyers, getting sophisticated again. So don't be scared as an agent. They're just showing you how much they know. For the agent, you don't need to know all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Yeah, my easy way is just tell my client to talk to them. Right? So don't be scared. But they definitely know what they're doing. Yeah, we've been doing deals too. They are the real expert. And I also want to find out how many different kind of lenders are here. If you're a lender, can you raise your hand? Any lenders? Can you say what lender you're from? Raise your hand. Yeah, and what bank?
Golden Bank.
Golden Bank, and you?
Capital Impact Partners, we're a community lender. We lend on affordable housing.
Yeah, can you stand up, say your name, and introduce yourself to everyone?
All right, good afternoon. Eric Willows, Capital Impact Partners. We're a community development finance institution. We lend on affordable housing, community health clinics, charter schools, co-ops, and food banks.
Great. And Annie, can you stand up, let people recognize you and tell your name and your bank?
Yeah, so I'm Eddie Ong. I'm with Golden Bank, and we do pretty much all commercial lending. Let me know what it is, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, more lenders. Yeah, please stand up and introduce yourself.
Simon Yu, Slap Capital. We are a commercial mortgage bank, so we not only broker deals to credit unions and banks, but we also have life insurance company that we represent exclusively.
Thank you. And more, please stand up.
Paul Cito, Bank of San Francisco. We do more substantially all commercial loans, things that more traditional.
What bank again?
Bank of San Francisco.
Oh, Bank of San Francisco.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we do 504, as she was explaining, and 7As, and we also do state guarantee loans too, which is a little bit different product line that many banks don't offer. And it's true that we do want deposits.
Okay.
There you go, thank you.
Any more lender over here? Please stand up and introduce. Yeah, that one, and then you.
Hi, I'm Dan Thomas. We are a nationwide commercial lending broker. We specialize in non-bank lines. So any of the bank turnouts or deals that banks can't do, we can take care of.
Competition. Yeah, please. Yes.
Stacy with Bank of the West. We are both commercial and residential. We focus on housing TREAA lending. We with 60% come for us.
Thank you very much. Any more lenders here? And then we go to the next sector, the bridge loan. Anyone has money that want to lend out money, you can be a bridge loan lender. Lenders. Okay.
Actually, bridge loan is very popular. I'm sure SLAT is very, very, very busy right now because.
We have our own internal fund in our house too.
Yeah. So, because a lot of, well, the smaller banks right now are not lending. I mean, I think that's a pretty true statement. And the larger banks, they have money to lend, but traditionally, right, they want, the bar is high, right? So that leaves you with, you know, most of the clients that don't have a lot of, that don't qualify for like the Chase or East West Bank, they will go to Simon over there. So bridge loan usually is short term, as I was mentioned earlier. It's what, two years or less, Simon? Or
2 years, 3
yeah.
years.
And usually, but I heard that right now hard money loan, the rate is actually pretty good still, right? What's the?
9 to 11.
Yeah, that's good, because I think a lot of lenders, the regional banks, they're charging that for regular loans, commercial loans. So, you guys need to talk to Simon.
Bridge loans are usually interest only, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got P&I, okay.
Hello, so I think for commercial agent, bridge loan is super important because the deal, if you can close the deal or not, a lot of the time if the traditional lender cannot get your buyer enough money or enough in a required time, then you consider bridge loan. And bridge loan is very creative. And there are many different private lenders out there. Many of them. It's a different world if you get into it. You don't need to stick with one. You can also use a broker, a loan broker, to make the private lender compete for your deal. So like Slack Capital now, they're doing 9 or 11%. That's really good in this rate because SBA loan can get to 10 or 11%.
Yep.
And the other traditional loan can be 6, 7, 8%. So in the old world, I just closed a year ago when the interest rate was 3%. Back then, the bridge loan would go in for 9% plus 1 point. But now they stay at 10 or 11%, almost no increase. While the traditional rate is almost double. So especially at this time, you can leverage the bridge loan to close commercial deal. In a market that retail probably having like 30% discount, office maybe like 30-40% discount. You can use bridge loan to close the deal, and later on when the economy comes back, you can rent it out, improve the rent, then you go for traditional loan to refinance, and that's how those sharp investors make the money. Yes.
What is the equity requirement for a bridge loan?
They usually can go lend you more, like 70%, sometimes even 80%. But they do look at your personal portfolio. They look at all your assets. If you're a very strong buyer who owns a lot of property, they will be very comfortable lending you 70%, 80% on one property that you're buying.
Yeah, usually I think around 30, 35, but if you have other properties, as Ling is saying, and you can cross-collateralize, they can lend more.
That's the answer.
Yes.
I want to do a commercial. Charles is my coworker. We're both from Golden Bank. So in the last 12 months, I've done a lot of bridge loans. That's one of the very few types of loans that the bank's willing to approve, because it's variable and there's no interest rate risk. With CRE, it's fixed oftentimes, and there's interest rate risks. So look for me. We charge about 8.25 to 8.5.
That's great. We feel very comfortable. You guys got a lot of support. So don't walk away from a commercial deal easily when you see one. You got all the support here. You got all the lenders, and everyone can support you. And seller financing. Seller financing, that is really your skills as the agent. You need to convey to the seller's agent. You have a strong buyer. Make sure that they come to lending money to your buyer, and that's another magic to make this happen. The chance to happen is real low, but once you have the seller agree to it, they will make the deal work that would not otherwise work, like they failed to get money from the bank, from the SBA, or from bridge loan. If the seller like you make the term that fit the situation, right? They may wanna pay back. Want you to pay back the loan to them over 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years, so that they don't have to pay a big capital gain tax. Remember, if you pay them a lump sum, they pay big capital gain tax. If they own the property more than 20 years or 30 years, they're paying 30 to 40% capital gain tax when they sell it and get all the money after 1 year. But if you ask them to carry a loan, then you pay them back in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years on average. That the tax bracket, they get in less for each year, the tax bracket will be much lower. So that's the way to persuade the seller to get you as seller financing.
You can also do an exchange on a seller financing deal as well. I'll just use an example. Let's say I'm selling $1 million, then gives me 200K and a note that says I'll pay you 800K in the future, a year from now, whatever it is. If you want to do an exchange, you absolutely can. You just need to replace the note with cash. So that note that with Ning saying I owe you 800K, I basically, if I'm the seller, I basically have to come up with that 800K now to do the exchange for the full $1 million to defer the taxes. So yes, I can do an exchange even with seller financing. I just need to replace the note.
That's another high-level skills. That goes to the really PhD level. But that's the secret sauce to make this happen. That's really valuable. What I mean, yeah. You only get it from these professionals.
Or sometimes you can buy a building with a mix of these programs, right? You can go seller financing. You can go with SBA loans or even commercial loans, like partly led by the bank and partly financed by the seller. It's really up to how your realtor, how they can advocate for you. But you don't have to go 100% seller financing. You can work with the bank.
So yeah.
So before we close up this, in the commercial real estate world, beyond what you normally see, you will actually have a lot more sectors. You have net lease, that what you see like triple net, McDonald's, Burger King's, there's a net lease seller. It takes a lot of specialized skills to sell those. If you have question, you can always ask a specialist who are in those sectors. And you get retail, like a shopping mall or the neighborhood retail. And you get multifamily that we're familiar in San Francisco Bay Area, a lot of multifamily. It's a large market. And you get hospitality, golf course or hotels, that kind of sector. You get office, you get healthcare, you get land, industry, mixed use, self-storage, manufactured home, mobile home. That comes up price about like the largest, it's a large percent of people live in mobile home around the U.S. You can buy mobile home parks. So if you get into commercial real estate, these are all the options for your clients, right? Once they get into investment, you can be the professional to advise them. There's a lot of different choice. And all these different sectors, they have different advantage and disadvantage. For example, a lot of people, they retire from apartment building. That's why they want to sell it. And as what I mentioned to attend, they run this trend into triple net lease property like a Burger King, McDonald's. So they don't need to manage the building. And then for triple net, the 3 net means first, net the property tax to the tenant pay the property tax. The first net, that's what it means. The second net means net the property insurance to the tenant pays property insurance. The third net means all the repair and maintenance. So it's a perfect time for retired apartment owner to sell the building and trade into the triple net property. Those are the 2 big categories of commercial real estate in the U.S. that they are large market. And then you have all the other special markets, the different types. So if you want to learn more about those, you can always ask someone who's in that sector. This become very specialized. But you guys can all learn. You guys are all very smart, as I can tell. Yes. Let's wrap up today, and we can always stay here and talk to all the different professionals. Yes. Maybe 5 more questions. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Oh, I'm not asking the question. I'm
Introduce yourself. My name is Charles Ho, and then from Golden Bank. And then I think today also didn't mention about commercial loan regarding the construction. I just want to let you know we still do construction loan, and then also we do land loan. So that's I want to say, I know a lot of banks right now doesn't really finance the construction. So
what's your loan to cost?
On the cost, we normally take it to 60 to 65. It depends on the project.
Would you accept PACE on top of the loan to cost?
We accept no. but
we just had a case like that.
I think sometimes it's case by case, and then we finance up to like 65% normally right now. But certain type of the different of the construction, like a hotel, then we definitely want to request them to have higher the equity part.
Max loan.
Max loan amount, our lending limit is 32 million. Our spot is like about like 20 million. Cause we can do the syndication loan too.
Okay.
So okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another top commercial agent here. I want to recognize Kevin. want to share a little bit with us, please.
I got him.
Hi, everybody. The only thing I have to share with you, if you're interested in commercial real estate, I endorse the CCIM designation. CCIM offers commercial real estate education, and it's part of the National Association of Realtors. So if you have interest in doing commercial real estate, take CCIM 101. It's a great course, and it'll teach you a lot. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Kevin. Would you have an agent more questions to ask you later on in their career? You are very seasoned in that, Kevin. He knows a lot. Yeah, great. Thank you. Let's give him applause. You guys got help. You guys got support from other top agents. Carol's fun. There's the baby. be public with the baby. So yeah, we have a lot of professionals here. So make sure you get to know each other. This is a community. We hope we support each other, help each other. And if you want to get more involved with CREAA, be our sponsors. And the next thing we have will be a big real estate expo at St. Mary's Square. It will be a huge event for our community. You know, it's going to be St. Mary Cathedral is on Gulf at Gary. On June 24, we're going to have the largest Chinese American real estate expo in there. Usually expect about hundreds and hundreds of people. And this year we make it especially kids friendly. Many of you guys have kids. Bring the kids, we have a free class for them. Story class, painting class, everything. Make sure they're happy so that you guys can hang out. So yeah, if you can, it's not too late to buy a booth at the expo. The booth will cost $500. It's very effective. I do it every year. Many of us do it every year. Yeah, if you haven't been there, it's great for you to promote your business, also get to know the community, get connected effectively. Okay, thank you very much. Any more comment from our speakers? You guys are good? Let's give our speakers a big applause. Let's all close. There's some more food here, please enjoy yourself. Okay.
Hey, Eric, I think we met before. Yeah, we have. You were first. I was, but I couldn't remember. I do have a